Every morning, two people wake up. One opens their eyes and immediately reaches for their phone. They scroll through other people's lives, compare themselves, complain about being tired, and promise they'll start tomorrow. The other sits in silence for just a moment. They take one deep breath, put both feet on the floor, and make a simple decision. Today I will win the morning. By the end of the year, these two people are living completely different lives. Not because one was smarter, not because one had more money, not because one was luckier. The difference began with the first hour of every single day. Today I want to tell you a story. It's not about a millionaire. It's not about a celebrity. It's about an ordinary young man named Ethan. Ethan wasn't born into success. He wasn't naturally confident. In fact, he spent years believing his life would never change. Every night he stayed awake far too late. Videos became hours. Hours became another wasted day. Every morning felt heavy. Every alarm sounded like bad news. He blamed his job. He blamed the economy. He blamed his past. But deep inside, he knew something uncomfortable. The biggest obstacle wasn't the world. It was the habits he repeated every morning. One cold Monday, Ethan woke up after another restless night. He looked around his small apartment. Dirty dishes covered the sink. Clothes were scattered across the floor. Bills sat unopened on the table. For a moment, he felt defeated. Then he noticed something written in an old notebook. Small actions repeated daily become your future. He couldn't remember when he had written those words, but they felt different now. Instead of making another huge promise, he chose one tiny challenge. Tomorrow morning, he would get out of bed the moment the alarm rang. No excuses, no snooze button, just one decision. The next morning, the alarm screamed at 5:30. His mind immediately whispered, 5 more minutes. You deserve more sleep. Start next week. The excuses sounded reasonable. They always do. But Ethan remembered the sentence in his notebook. Small actions repeated daily become your future. He counted backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He stood up. Nothing magical happened. The room didn't suddenly become brighter. His problems didn't disappear. But for the first time in years, he had defeated the first battle of the day. Most people think success begins with big opportunities. They're wrong. Success often begins with tiny victories that nobody else sees. Getting out of bed, making your bed, drinking a glass of water, stepping outside before checking your phone. These moments seem insignificant, but they quietly teach your mind one powerful lesson. You control your day before your day controls you. That lesson changed everything for Ethan. And it can change everything for you, too. The strongest transformations happen where nobody can see them. Every morning, Ethan made one small promise to himself. Just don't quit today. Not forever. Just today. He stopped chasing motivation and started building discipline. Because motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a decision. Some mornings he felt powerful. Other mornings he felt completely drained. But he learned something that changed his life forever. You don't have to feel ready. You only have to begin. One rainy morning, Ethan almost gave up. The alarm rang. He turned it off. He closed his eyes again. For a few seconds, comfort won. Then he remembered something his grandfather used to tell him as a child. The easiest road rarely leads to the life you dream about. Those words echoed through his mind. He sat up. Not because he wanted to, because he had made a promise. And every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence grows. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. That morning, Ethan went for a walk before sunrise. The streets were silent. The sky slowly changed from darkness to shades of orange and gold. For the first time in years, he noticed something beautiful. The world had been waking up like this every day. He had simply been sleeping through it. As the cool air filled his lungs, he realized something important. Most people are waiting for life to inspire them. But inspiration often finds those who are already moving. Action creates energy. Movement creates momentum. And momentum creates confidence. From that day forward, Ethan created a simple morning routine. Wake up immediately. Drink water. Make the bed. Stretch for 5 minutes. Walk outside. Write 3 goals for the day. No complicated system. No expensive courses. No secret formula. Just simple habits repeated with consistency. Weeks passed. Then months. His mornings became peaceful instead of rushed. His thoughts became clearer. He focused better at work. He stopped comparing himself to everyone else online. Little by little, the person staring back at him in the mirror began to change, not only on the outside, but deep inside. Because every morning he was proving one thing to himself: I can trust myself. And when you trust yourself, everything else begins to change. Your attitude changes. Your decisions improve. Your confidence grows. Your future slowly takes shape. The morning wasn't making Ethan successful. The morning was making him become the kind of person who could create success. That is the difference most people never understand. Winning the morning isn't about waking up at 5 a.m. It's about taking ownership of the first decisions of your day, because if you can control the first hour, you have a much better chance of controlling the next 23. Just when Ethan believed he had finally found his rhythm, life tested him. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday. He walked into work expecting another normal day, but instead his manager called him into the office. The conversation lasted less than 10 minutes. We're restructuring the company. Today is your last day. Just like that. The job he had depended on was gone. As Ethan walked to his car carrying a small cardboard box with his belongings, fear rushed through his mind. Or what now? How will I pay my bills? And maybe all this discipline was pointless. For the first time in months, the old version of himself came knocking. The version that wanted to quit. The version that believed life was unfair. The version that searched for comfort instead of courage. That night he barely slept. His thoughts raced faster than ever. Every worst-case scenario played over and over in his mind. But when the alarm rang the next morning, he faced the most important decision of his life. No one would know if he stayed in bed. He had nowhere to be. No boss was waiting. No coworkers expected him. He could easily tell himself, just one day. But deep inside, he understood something powerful. Discipline means the most when no one is watching. So he stood up, he made his bed. He drank a glass of water. He stepped outside as the sun slowly climbed above the horizon. Nothing about his situation had changed, but everything about his mindset had. Walking through the quiet streets, Ethan realized something he had never understood before. The morning wasn't giving him success. It was giving him strength. Strength to face uncertainty. Strength to keep moving when fear whispered, "Ryers, stop all." Strength to believe that one bad chapter doesn't define the entire story. That morning, instead of sending himself into panic, he updated his resume. He learned a new skill online. He reached out to people he hadn't spoken to in years. One action became another. 1 hour became a productive day. One productive day became a productive week. Soon, opportunities began appearing where he had never looked before, not because the world suddenly became kinder, but because his mind had stopped looking for excuses and started looking for solutions. That's the hidden power of winning your morning. You don't control what happens to you. You control how you respond. Every sunrise gives you another chance to choose your attitude, another chance to choose discipline over distraction, another chance to choose progress over perfection. Most people wait for confidence before taking action. But confidence is built after action. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes evidence that you're capable of more. Every difficult morning you overcome becomes proof that you are stronger than yesterday. Ethan still had moments of doubt. He still had difficult days. But now he understood something that changed everything. A year passed. If you had met Ethan then, you might have thought he was simply lucky. He had a better job, healthier habits, more confidence, and a calmness that people couldn't quite explain. But luck had very little to do with it. What people saw was the result. What they never saw were the hundreds of ordinary mornings that built the man standing before them. One morning, Ethan stopped at a small coffee shop before work. The cashier looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes, shoulders slumped, no smile. As Ethan picked up his coffee, the young man quietly asked, "How do you always look so positive?" Ethan smiled. "I'm not positive every day," he replied. "I just refuse to let my first hour decide the rest of my life." The cashier didn't fully understand. Not yet. But those words stayed with him. A few weeks later, Ethan saw him again. This time, the young man looked different. He smiled. He stood a little taller. "I started waking up earlier," he said. "At first, I hated it. Now, I feel like I'm finally in control." Ethan realized something important. Your habits speak louder than your advice. People rarely change because of what you tell them. They change because of what they see. That realization made Ethan stop trying to impress people. Instead, he focused on becoming someone worth learning from. Every morning became a vote for the person he wanted to become. Some days he voted with a workout. Some days with reading. Some days by simply showing up when he didn't feel like it. Because growth isn't built on perfect days. It's built on consistent ones. Then life tested him again. His father became seriously ill. Hospital visits replaced peaceful mornings. Sleep became shorter. Stress became heavier. Everything felt uncertain. For a moment, Ethan wondered if all his progress would disappear. But something incredible happened. The habits he had practiced for months didn't leave him. They carried him. Even on mornings when he had only 15 minutes, he still chose one small win. A glass of water. A quiet prayer. 5 deep breaths. Writing one sentence in his journal. A short walk outside the hospital before visiting his father. He no longer believed success required perfect conditions. He understood that consistency matters more than perfection. The strongest people aren't the ones who never struggle. They're the ones who keep moving through the struggle. One evening, while sitting beside his father's hospital bed, his father opened his eyes and whispered, "I'm proud of the man you've become." Those words meant more than any promotion, more than any paycheck, more than any award, because Ethan finally understood the greatest reward of discipline. It doesn't just change your schedule, it changes your character. Character is what remains when comfort disappears. Character is what carries you when motivation is gone. And character is built one morning at a time. Years later, people often asked Ethan the same question. What changed your life? Some expected him to mention a life-changing book. Others thought it was a wealthy mentor, a lucky opportunity, or the perfect job. Ethan would simply smile and say, "Nothing changed overnight. I just stopped losing my mornings." At first, people were disappointed by his answer because it sounded too simple. But the truth is often simple. The difficult part is living it every single day. Ethan looked back at the man he used to be, the man who stayed up too late, the man who hit the snooze button again and again, the man who waited for Monday, next month, or next year to finally begin. He realized that his biggest enemy had never been failure. It had been delay. Every time he said, "I'll start tomorrow," he was quietly giving away another chance to become the person he wanted to be. Then one morning, everything changed. Not because life became easier, but because he made a different decision. He decided that every sunrise was a fresh opportunity. Not to be perfect, but to be better than yesterday. That single decision, repeated hundreds of times, completely transformed his future. Think about the sunrise for a moment. Every single day, the sun rises without asking whether people are ready. It doesn't wait for perfect weather. It doesn't wait for applause. It simply rises and does what it was created to do. What if you lived the same way? What if every morning you stopped waiting for motivation? What if you stopped comparing your journey to everyone else's? What if, instead of chasing perfection, you simply focused on winning today? Imagine where you could be 1 year from now. 365 mornings. 365 opportunities to keep one promise to yourself. One small choice. Repeat it again, and again, and again. That is how ordinary people build extraordinary lives. Remember this. Your future is not created in one dramatic moment. It is created in the quiet decisions that nobody else notices. The alarm clock. The first step out of bed. The workout you almost skipped. The page you decided to read. The healthy meal you chose. The difficult conversation you finally had. The dream you refused to abandon. Those moments may seem small, but they become your identity, and your identity shapes your destiny. So tomorrow morning, when your alarm begins to ring, you'll face the same choice that Ethan faced. Comfort, or growth, excuses, or action. The life you've always known, or the life you've always imagined. No one else can make that decision for you. Not your family, not your friends, not your boss, not this video. Only you. Because every morning, life quietly asks one question. Will you win today? The answer isn't spoken with words. It's spoken with action. So stand up. Take a deep breath. Make your bed. Move your body. Protect your mind.